Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we are going to be continuing in the alphabet series. We are on to the letter E. And as far as E is concerned, E is a pretty difficult one for me to make. I haven't played a ton of E games. In fact, I was going through it, and I think I'd only played like 20 some games, so this list is just from 20 games. So I don't think it's as strong as some of the other letters, but there are several really good games on this list, either way. Um, and before I get into that, you might notice I've got, it looks a little bit different back here. It's because I finally moved all my stuff into the basement now. And it looks, I've got this, ring light on behind, or in front of me, I suppose it would be, because the light in this room is so loud, so I had to turn that off and have this ring light on. So it looks a little bit weird. It's a little bit flickery a little bit, but it was better than having that humming constantly for that. And I've got some other standing lights that are going to be coming in here, so that I'll fix that problem right then and there. But there's like this ring light on my glasses. You know what? We can take the glasses off. I don't need to see. You don't need to see me. I don't need to see you. You just want to know about some games, some good E games, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so I've got the list right in front of me. I'll try and be able to see it now without the glasses. Before we do that, though, I'll just do my quick honorable mentions like I've done in the other ones. So some quick ones. Expeditions was a new Stonemaier game that got released, and it's a good game, but it's a little bit long for me. For a lot of the game just feels really long, really dragged out a little bit. But I do like the actual system of the game. We've got Elder Sign, the Cthulhu game, dice placement sort of game. We've got Explorers, which is a very quick flip and write sort of game that I really enjoy. And we've got Explorers of the North Sea, which is part of the Garphill series of games. It's the North Sea trilogy, along with Raiders of the North Sea. This isn't as good as Raiders, but it's still a pretty solid game. Now let's actually get into my top 10 E games. So number 10, we are starting with Equinox. Equinox is a game that I actually ended up selling to a friend of mine. And in this game, you are betting on these creatures. And the earlier you bet on these creatures, the better it is going to be for you. But you are going to be eliminating some of these creatures. At the end of the game, there's only going to be 3 creatures left. So you're trying to bet on which 3 creatures are going to be left by the end of the game. And you're doing this by placing cards down. And every round, one of these creatures is going to be eliminated. Whichever creature has the lowest numbered card in that row is going to be eliminated. And slowly you'll go from, I don't know how many creatures start in the game, but eventually it will whittle itself down to only 3 left. So you want to bet on these creatures early and try to manipulate the cards in the row so that they are not eliminated each round. And just a good game that's actually grown on me. Like I said, I eventually sold this to a friend, and he really liked it. In fact, if he was making his top 10 E games, Equinox might be number 1 for him. He really likes it. I don't like it as much as him, but I think it's a really solid game. And after I sold it and played it, I'm like, God, maybe I shouldn't have sold it. But I'm glad that I did because, he enjoys it so much. So number 10 is Equinox. Going to number 9. Number 9 is a big, giant, epic box experience of a game. This is Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, which is the second edition of Eclipse. In this game, like I said, it's a big, giant 4X game where you are building out this space fleet and upgrading that fleet. Throughout the game, you're going to be researching new technology, putting that technology, upgrading your ships to make them more powerful, buying more ships, expanding throughout the universe, and you've got some resources that you're going to be spending on these different things that you're going to be doing. And there is battling in this game, and it's dice battling. And that's kind of where I have a problem with this game. Is I like 90% of this game. I love buying new ships, upgrading those ships, researching the new technologies that are going to be going on these ships. But then the actual battling of itself is just dice battling. And when you play like these really long games, I don't really like when it comes down to dice rolling for these long games. I love dice in short games. In long games, I'm not a big fan of them. But 90% of this game I absolutely adore. And a lot of my friends really like this one. So yeah, number 9 is Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. Going to number 8. Number 8, we go from the big giant box to a small little card game. Number 8 is Ecosystem, or maybe the System of Games ecosystem, because there's 3 games in this series of games now. Because you had Ecosystem, then you had Eco Coral Reef, I believe it was called, then you had Ecosystem Savannah. And it is a very simple drafting game. We're going to be drafting these different types of cards and putting them into a grid. A 4x5 grid. You'll have 20 cards at the end because you're drafting 10 cards in each round. And all these cards are going to score at the end of the game based on a lot of adjacency rules. Like if you've got this tree, you want lions next to this tree. And if you have these lions, you want them to be like adjacent to other things. And it's such a simple game, but it's very thinky for what you want to do in this game, how you want to place these. And you're like, okay, I want to place this. And hopefully like a giraffe comes, so a giraffe would work perfectly in this spot, but maybe a giraffe doesn't come. And it's just a simple, fun drafting game. So number 8, Ecosystem. Going to number 7. Number 7 is actually a very new game that I reviewed, I think, 2 or 3 months ago now. This is Empire's End by John D. Clary. And this is basically No Thanks meets Space. At the beginning of the game, everybody has an empire. And there's a bunch of different tiles in front of yourself, and they're all laid out the exact same for every single empire at the start of every game. And every tile you have is worth a certain amount of points. But throughout the game, there's going to be these disasters that you're going to be bidding on to not take that disaster and blow up certain tiles. So throughout the game, you know, when it comes to your turn, if there's a disaster, you like say no thanks, basically because of the no thanks, and you put one of your resources that you have onto that card. And eventually someone's going to take that disaster and blow up a certain tile. But they get all the resources that are on that, like in No Thanks. And then they're also going to get a reward, some kind of bonus for taking that disaster that might get them a lot more points. It might get them more points than they lost from losing that tile. And so you have some interesting decisions throughout the game. You're going to be flipping tiles around, moving them. So at the start of the game, everybody's the same. At the end of the game, everybody's very asymmetric and they have different abilities, different powers, different strategies going forward. So yeah, a really good game. So number 7, Empire's End. Going to number 6. Number 6 is a dice worker placement game, and I like my dice worker placement games. This is Endangered. And like I said, dice worker placement game where you are trying to help these animals that are on the verge of extinction. And you're just, doing the dice worker placements thing, but you're also going to be adding new spots. And I love worker placement games that actually add new spots that you can go to, that you can place your dice or your workers on. And you're just trying to manipulate this board, manipulate the state, trying to stave off this extinction event that is happening to these particular animals. It's like a scenario-based game. There's different animals that you can get that are different scenarios, and they'll have different rules for that particular scenario. Just a fun game. Number 6, Endangered. Going to number 5. Number 5 is another ecosystem sort of game. This is Eco's First Continent. In this game, as a group together, you are going to be building out the board. And it sort of feels like Carcassonne, because in Carcassonne, you're building out basically a grid, a new board for you. In Ecosystem, you're together building out this big giant area. You're putting out new tiles, you're putting out mountains, you're putting out trees, you're putting out different types of animal. And it's really cool watching the state of the board grow, putting new animals out there. It's really, really interesting. And then like you have some kind of game effect that will wipe out this, herd of giraffe or whatever is going on. And you're going to get points for that. And I really enjoy watching the game grow as you're playing it. So number 5 is Eco's First Continent. Going to number 4. Number 4 is also a game. It actually came out this year. Yeah, I think it did. Earlier in the year. This is Earth. This game got a ton of buzz in it. And it reminded a lot of people a lot of different games. Terraforming Mars, Ark Nova, Wingspan. But in this game, you are going to be building out this grid of cards, and a lot of times you're going to be activating these grids of cards, certain colors of the grid that you've got. And it's just a lot of good positive things happen continuously in this game. There's not like a moment where you're like, someone does something and you're like, okay, whatever. Even on other people's turns, good things are happening for you. You're activating all of these different cards. There's a lot to think about when grid placement sort of thing. There's a lot of different goals you're trying to get, and you're getting a ton of points at the end of the game. ton of points. But yeah, it's just a positivity of the board game because it's just constant positive good things happening. So number 4 is Earth. Going to number 3. Number 3 is another little card game. This is Enchanted Plumes. This is a game that I really, really like. I have played this game a ton. I've talked about this game quite a bit on this channel. In this game, you are going to be building peacocks and building out their plume, their feathers in this game. And it is simply like, it's almost like a Lost Cities sort of card game. And on your turn, you're going to place 1 or 2 of your cards that are in your hand into this peacock area, and you can have as many peacocks going at one time as you want. The bottom row of your peacock is actually going to be all negative points, but then from then on, you're going to be building on top of them in an inverted pyramid sort or pyramid style, and all the cards on top of the lower level are actually going to be worth whatever their card value is. So you try to get low cards on the bottom and high cards on top, but you can only place cards on top of these other cards if the row below them has that particular color. So if your bottom row is red, yellow, green, the next level can only be red, yellow, and green cards as well. Also, you're going to get bonus points for finishing your different peacocks, completing the full pyramid of them. It's just a lot of good, not easy decisions, very hard decisions, because you can only ever have 6 cards in your hand at one time. So after you play these cards, you're going to either draw cards or swap a card from your hand with one of these cards that is in this marketplace sort of area. So there's a lot of things to think about in this game. Very simple, easy game to teach, fun game, great decision space. So number 3, Enchanted Plumes. Going to number 2. Number 2 is a game that's kind of gotten replaced for me a little bit, but I really like this one. This is Ethnos, which had a reprint earlier in the year called Archaeos Society. In this game, though, it is an area control sort of game where in Archaeos Society, you're moving up tracks. But in this game, you are simply going to be playing out cards of different faction types and placing out tokens on these different areas in the game board, trying to control the certain areas, and you're going to score different points each round for these different areas that you're controlling. What really makes this interesting is the characters that you're playing, the cards that you're playing, all have different special abilities, different effects. You're trying to combo some things down. When you play a group of a color or a character, then all the other cards that were in your hand that didn't get played get put into the open market that other people can grab. And just a fun game, quick, another one that's pretty easy to teach as well. So number 2 is Ethnos. Going to my number 1 e-game, and this is a very popular game actually. It's got a ton of expansions, which I've played none of them. And I don't feel like a need to play them or to get them really, but maybe eventually I will. But right now I just enjoy the base game, and this is Everdell. This is a simple worker placement tableau sort of building game. In this game that is broken up into the 4 seasons. So in the first season, you only have 2 workers, I think it is, and you're going to be going to these different spots and gathering resources to buy cards to put into your area. Those cards are going to be worth points, and you can only have, I believe it is 15 cards in your area. And the fact is, right at the start of the game, you only have 2 workers. By the end of the game, you're going to have like 5, I think it is, or something. Might be wrong on that. But that's at the start, you're like, you can only have 15 cards in your tableau. You're like, there's no possible way I'm going to be able to get 15 cards in this area anyways. Why would they have a restriction on that? Because, I only get to place a couple workers each turn. But the fact is, you get to combo a lot of things. You'll have certain like houses that are going to let you get different characters for free into your little tableau. And so you're like, okay, I got this, now I can get the king for free. Like I got the castle, I can get the king or the queen for free. Or if I've got the farm, I can get the husband or the wife for free. So there's a lot of that sort of thing in this game. Fun game. I love the cute characters because they've got that. The animals in this game are just great, fun game. So number 1 is Everdell, and I think Everdell is going to be a lot of people's number 1 for e-games actually. But it's definitely not my number 1. Great game. Number 1, Everdell. And that will complete this E-list. So make sure to comment down below your favorite E game. If you struggled with this list as much as I did, because like I said, I think I've only played about 20 E games. So that's it was hard to pick from such a small pool for this particular letter. Yep, comment down below your favorite E game. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me in the future. Hope you have an amazing day. Take care.